Psychology works at the atomic level, or the physical level that we operate now, and consciousness works at the subatomic level, or the quantum level. In the physical level, things are predictable and replicatable. That is the world that we live in. If you buy something, let's just say a vacuum, you can rest assured that the laws of physics were applied to that vacuum because the person who designed the vacuum would have used the laws of physics, and the instructions that it came with would apply the laws of physics because in the physical, the atomic level, things are predictable and they're replicatable. If they have you get a vacuum or any other thing for that matter, they want it to be predictable and replicatable. Otherwise, they would have a mess on their hands. They'd have to have 100 customer service people for every customer. At the quantum level, things are not predictable the same way. In quantum computing, you can have a bit that can be at more than one place at a time. Not a copy of a bit, but the same exact bit. That is why it is so powerful, because you can manipulate that bit, and it's not just a copy of the bit. So it's so much more quicker. It would be like me being here and me working 3 jobs right now. So much more can be done. Also, in the quantum, when someone observes the experiment, it changes the outcome. The laws of physics would definitely not apply to this. If you bought a vacuum with quantum instructions, you can rest assured that that vacuum would probably not even work once. So that's the difference. The reason why psychology works at the physical level is because it is both predictable and reliable, just like the vacuum. A good psychological thesis is when multiple lab people get the same results, and that's what they want. Otherwise, what good is it, right? So in psychology, that's the aim, is to be predictable and reliable, so that it's useful. The laws of psychology, one law that applies is inertia. If you go into a car dealership and you are going to buy a car, and they get you to move in their direction, it is going to be hard for you to pull yourself away from that, because human beings are designed to not want to look untruthful or inconsistent. That's not considered a quality that other people want to be around. So the laws of inertia would work in that situation. Also, the law of effect, which is also the whole foundation behind behaviorism, which every social psychologist would say is the holy grail. A stimulus is presented, and then there's some response. So those are very predictable and very reliable. Consciousness acts on the quantum level because it is not predictable or reliable. In quantum computing, the one can be at 2 places. It's just not there, and I know I just talked about that a second ago. So in consciousness, the same way, it is not predictable or reliable. My experience with consciousness is going to be much, much different than somebody else's. And that wouldn't work well with psychology, because you want something predictable and reliable, so somebody can hawk their wares, or they can try to fix somebody or do anything else. It needs to be reliable. Well, consciousness ain't that way, because it's always unfolding in front of you in different ways. And I've been practicing consciousness now very steadily for about 3 years, and it's always like this, where it just unfolds in front of you. Things just get crazier. A few times I just looked at something, looked at the environment, just the physical environment. Like one time I was walking by this church, and everything looked staged. The cart looked staged. The pylons looked staged. Everything, even the people, just looked staged, and it was just really surreal to me. And that's what I'm finding a lot with consciousness. Consciousness and psychology are needed to work well together. They are complementary and they are synergistic. My college degree is in psychology, and I got that degree because I always wanted to, you know, this is back then, so I'll just be frank about it, because I always wanted to impose my will on other people. But that wasn't the case because I didn't have consciousness. Consciousness is what is the engine behind psychology, just like quantum is the energy behind the atomic. It's underneath it, it's the engine. The reason why you need consciousness when you're practicing psychology is because of that old parable, know thyself. Because me, I was more, I would say, somewhat timid type of person. Other times I've had crazy bravery, but I've also gone through times in my life where I've become more timid. So, um, when you're practicing the laws of psychology, you will never get them to work unless you are confident about it and other people feel that confidence. So with consciousness, you get that because it's kind of built into it. Because as soon as you find all the beauty that starts happening, then you start to become more calmer. You just see such beauty. So sometimes it's like, wow, you know. I never looked behind the eyes of an animal before, but when I look behind the eyes of an animal, it is certainly where I could see that only God could do. I don't see, you can see all the wax mannequins you can. You're still not going to see that lucidity that you get from behind the eyes of an animal or a person. So, that's probably the first thing I'm trying to do. I don't do it consciously, but it makes me feel a lot better whenever I'm interacting with any living thing. I always try to look behind the eyes. I try to put my consciousness behind their eyes, just like I try to do it to mine, so that I can just be more comfortable. And you can certainly see where if you're putting yourself behind the eyes of the person, that where it would be more effective if you're trying to get them to move in your direction. And another really good thing is about this is that when you're living with consciousness, that you only have good intentions because you will never get consciousness unless unless you see the love in other people. As a matter of fact, I would say that this has been one of my stumbling blocks because early on when I was interacting with people, I felt that if they weren't a woman that I was attracted to, that that what was the point of talking to them? And that cost me so greatly. In hindsight, it cost me greatly because think about it. All the people that aren't living up to your expectations, you're treating them as less. And people operate at a psychic level. So do animals for that matter, but let's just stick to people. And they know when you don't want to be around them, and they're gonna scooch away from you any chance they get. So consciousness and psychology work well together because that's the way the pair was designed, in my opinion. So, I was gonna say something before that, but I think I'm just gonna leave it with that right now. Thank you for listening, and you have a great day. Bye.